Hello and good morning. If you're having a coffee and waiting for the event to start, this is your cue to get back to your computer as we're about to start the session for today. Good morning. My name is Vinicius Valente. I'm a project advisor here at the European Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency, also known as CINEA in short. And I have the pleasure to host you for this third day of the 2026 edition of the Life Info Days. For this third day, we're going to be focusing this morning on the sub-program of life dedicated to the clean energy transition, or CET in short. And my colleagues and I have prepared an exciting agenda that I'd like to present to you in the next slides. We're going to first start with some welcoming words from our deputy head of unit, Mathilde Louvet, who's going to join me in a moment. The program will continue, if you can go already to the next slide. The program will continue with the policy background. So we have a nice presentation from Pierluca Merola from DG Energy, who kindly accepted to join her here to give you an update on the policy background behind the Life CET program. The agenda will continue with two sets of joint presentations. The first one is going to be delivered by our heads of sector, Aneta Yan and Maria Laguna, our heads of sector here in CINEA. We're going to present you the main elements of the call for the CET program this year. So please stay tuned for that. And the second joint presentation going to be delivered by my kind colleagues Zoe Wildiers and Talia Brun, who are going to give you all the details you need to know on how to submit an excellent proposal for the Life CET program. At the end of the session today, we're going to give you some room to ask questions to us. So as you know, interaction, it's very important, and we'll be collecting questions throughout the session, and we're going to finalize the program with dedicated Q&A sessions where you will try to answer as many questions as you can. And for asking the questions, you can use a Slido, which is you can see the details on the next slide. So to ask us questions, please go to slido.com or slide.do and use the hashtag EULife26. So as I said, we'll be collecting questions throughout the morning session, and we'll be trying to address them at the end of the session. I think that's enough said from my side. So welcome everybody and good morning again. And without further ado, we can start the program, and I'll give the words to Mathilde Louvet, who I think it's already joining me on this digital stage. So Mathilde, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Vinicius, and good morning, everyone. Very warm welcome on my side and on behalf of all the colleagues for joining today's session. And we are very happy to have you so numerous to explore together the opportunities offered by the LIFE program. So as many of you know, if you have also followed the previous session, these days, the LIFE program is a funding instrument entirely dedicated to the environment, nature, conservation, and climate action. And as such, it plays a key role in driving the sustainable transition in Europe. So in this session, we are spotlighting the LIFE Clean Energy Transition Sub-Program, which is a key initiative designed to accelerate the EU energy objectives and targets. And my colleague from DG ENER, Pierluca Merola, will provide in a moment a policy update, so just after my introductory words, so please stay tuned. So with a €1 billion budget allocated for the years 21-27, the LIFE set funds innovative, high-impact projects that drive the energy transition at the local level. Last year alone, CINEA supported nearly 50 projects, engaging almost 500 beneficiaries across Europe and beyond. And many projects will start now, and we are really looking forward to see their progress. But the good news for today is that more opportunities are available this year. And the LIFESET Call 26 is now open with a total budget of €85.5 million. So it was launched on the 21st of April with a submission deadline on 16th September 26. So please mark really these dates in your calendars. And we believe it will give you sufficient time to develop a strong proposal. This year's call has 13 open topics organized into 5 thematic clusters, and they are all key to advancing the energy transition on the ground. So we are looking for proposals that support the EU energy policy framework, that roll out new technologies, services, and businesses models, that attract private finance and mobilize local investments, and last but not least, empower consumers to actively participate in the transition. So really, to sum it up, LiveSet turns policy into action by sharing best practices, upskilling stakeholders, removing market barriers, and unlocking investments where they are the most needed. And today's Info Day, my colleagues also will guide you to dive deeper into these priorities. So to conclude on my side, I wish you a productive event and the very best of luck in developing your proposals. The transition starts with you. So if you have an innovative idea to accelerate the energy transition, we really want to hear from you, and CINEA is here to support your vision, and we look forward to bring your projects to life. So now I hand back the floor to Vinicius to introduce our next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Matilda. Just before I introduce the next speaker, I would like to also to highlight something on the agenda on the fact that beyond the live session that you're about to listen, we also prepared a set of dedicated videos on each of the 13 topics that was just introduced by Matilda. And presenting to you at the very end of the session how you can access the video. So please stay tuned not only for the presentations, but if you're interested in hearing really the details behind each of the 13 topics, please make sure to stay with us until the end, as we make sure that you can access these videos after the session. So we'll continue with the session. Indeed, now I invite Pierluca Merola, Policy Officer in DG Ener, to present the policy backgrounds and updates behind the Life Clean Energy Transition Program. Thank you for joining us, Pierluca.
Thank you very much, Vinicius, and welcome to all the attendants, all the participants from my side, from the DG Ener side as well. I am here to, I'm the contact point in the DG Ener for the Life Clean Energy Transition sub-program, and I'm here to present you a bit what has happened in terms of policy update in the recent, when we speak about energy, we could speak even in the recent weeks. But in general, the overall framework within which we set the activity of the program, and then the core topic that we put forward, and then hopefully your successful project in delivering on the EU energy policy objective. So if we can start and move to the next slide, the very first thing I would like to bring here to the table is that in the current mandate of the European Commission, and following a situation where, as you know, we are moving from, as it is often the case in Europe, but we are moving from crisis to crisis, with the need also to increase overall EU competitiveness. I wanted to bring back what are the three key pillars that move the EU energy policy. The first one, and that has been put forward clearly in this mandate of President von der Leyen too, is competitiveness. Energy as an important, many important links with competitiveness in relation to the energy prices and energy costs for our industry, but also in relation to the development of clean energy technologies and solutions that support, of course, manufacturing in Europe and growth and jobs across Europe, as you all know, as we do across many of our core topics under LifeSet. Then, of course, very centrally, decarbonization. Our whole legislative framework, when we speak about energy efficiency and renewable energy, is driven by the 2050 climate neutrality objective. And there is where we set also all of our activity. I mean, all of our action are for the clean energy transition to move us toward a climate neutral economy. And then we cannot really avoid anymore to place energy security and energy independence at the forefront of any type of action that deal with the energy transition. You know very well where we were in 2022 with the with the Russian invasion to Ukraine, and follow up in terms of both blackmailing toward Europe with the energy import from Russia, but also impact in terms of energy cost. And then where we are also today with the global geopolitical instability in the Middle East and the increased energy prices that then trickle down in Europe and the need to basically accelerate in phasing out our dependency, our strategic dependency, and the overall resilience of the EU energy system. If we can move to the next slide, just indeed to continue on the very latest development. You know that last week the European Commission has adopted a communication on basically how to address rising energy costs and laying down what are the different actions that we invite member states to take and that we are taking to support member state in addressing the current energy prices crisis, but with one key message, and the message was clear from Commissioner Jorgensen as well as from President von der Leyen yesterday in the plenary of the European Parliament. The European strategy is to double down on the clean energy transition, on electrification, on energy efficiency, on homegrown renewable energy. This is the European strategy to shield our energy system, to increase its resilience. When we speak about, we often speak about the cost of the transition and that the transition, we need money and resource to invest. And I mean, as if you follow the different interview from our commissioner and what is being communicated, you can see that we are giving a daily, basically, update on how much more resources in Europe we are spending since March 2026, and we have now 24 billion of additional money being spent on fossil fuels. So we can certainly understand how these resources, if we manage to phase out fossil fuels and if we accelerate on that, are probably also better spent in clean energy solution, in energy efficiency, and additional renewable capacity. Now, if I can really a bit also accelerated, knowing that we have much thing to present here, I will not go into detail of the accelerated EU communication, but just to let you know that it has 5 pillars, and it goes from coordination between member states, especially on releasing a strategic stock and addressing the current possible risk of supply, and to how we protect consumer, and then indeed acceleration in terms of electrification and homegrown energy. If I can come back a bit to the framework, as we said, for the mandate of the current Commission 24-29, as you know, the competitiveness priority with the Draghi report is really at the forefront. Energy and clean energy comes in both on terms of affordable energy and affordable energy cost for our industry, for our industrial production and our enterprises more in general, but also to support manufacturing and clean tech in Europe. You know probably very well that the EU, when we speak about clean energy solution across the different sector, we have some dependency in some areas, while we are still leader in order, for instance, on energy efficient technologies. Europe and also, for instance, on heat pumps, Europe retain a global leadership. So these are really areas where to support the uptake, support manufacturer in supporting demand for the uptake of the technologies. I briefly spoke about the Clean Industrial Deal and I will and about the overall competitiveness framework. This is just to mention that within the Clean Industrial Deal, there is, as you know, the Affordable Energy Action Plan, where we are still implementing some action within this in terms of accelerating on basically bringing down the what we call the energy cost. So the overall share of cost for energy on the enterprise's overall budget, or on a family when we speak about vulnerable households, for instance. So this is remain a part of the overall picture. Then on the decarbonization and climate angle, indeed, you know very well that we agreed recently, the co-legislator agreed on the 85% plus 5 target for 2040, and that within this framework, the DGNR specifically is working, as indicated in the Commission Work Program 2026, on a post-2030 energy framework. So to a framework that is able also to deliver from the energy perspective this agreed reduction in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. So the trajectory remain clear, remain stable, and we are moving, deliver and accelerate, help us in delivering on this target. On the renewable side, as you know, is 42.5% of the overall share of renewable in the system. And on the energy efficiency side is a reduction of 11.7% in final energy consumption by 2030 compared to the current baseline. Of course, now before moving to some of the really most recent initiative and upcoming, I want to just to recall very briefly that we have a full package, a robust package of legislation, the Fit for 55 legislation, which are really now, you know, this is not new, but now we are really in the full moment of transposition by member state and implementation in member state. And this is very important for many of the projects that we support, where we either want to target some actors that support implementation or go slightly beyond or accelerate, etc., implementation of certain provisions. The Renewable Energy Directive, you know it very well. This is just to mention that indeed the transposition deadline has been in last fall in 2025, with some actually also anticipated transposition when it comes to permitting, for instance, and that now we are really on the full moment of transposition and implementation from member state. On energy efficiency, on the ED, on the Energy Efficiency Directive, the transposition was in November 2025, and so we have received some of the, not all, but many of the transposition from the member state, but now we are moving to implementation. So there is now a number of measures that member states have deployed to deliver. On the PBD, on the Energy Performance of Building Directive, the transposition deadline is in May, so basically tomorrow, not next month, but tomorrow. And here as well, there are a number of I mean, when we speak about the building renovation plan, so there has been a number of anticipated provision, but it remains the main element that with our topic, we have also a dedicated topic for supporting to key implementation of key legislation. And here to take well into account that now release the implementation, that all the text should be in the legal framework of the member state. So the shift is really toward supporting their implementation. If I can move quickly to the recent and let's say upcoming initiative, a first thing I would like to mention to you is the adoption in the 10th of March of the Clean Energy Investment Strategy, together with what we call an energy efficiency financing support package. The the focus of the strategy is the need to remove barrier and accelerate the crowding of private investment on energy, and then specifically mention when we speak about energy efficiency or local on-site renewable energy deployment. So let's say more on the demand side where we intervene via Live City. The important part here that I want to bring up to you is the focus in working with the EIB, but in particularly in developing schemes that can be that can have a long-term support. So they are not approaching toward we move away from a mostly grant-based way to finance, which is based on stop and go in terms of when I speak about large scale deployment, but we move to a more long-term type of support that can crowd in overall private investment. We have launched a new pilot scheme there with a 500 million initiative to accelerate the uptake of energy efficiency as a service models. This is particularly relevant for enterprise, for SMEs, because it is considered that we aim to remove the conflict that there is when we speak with enterprises in investing in clean energy solution with their capex, with their capital investment, instead of investing in their traditional core business. So by using energy efficiency as a service, we want really to give them the opportunity to do this investment on their operational expenditure and avoid a possible conflict of interest. Should I invest on my core business or should I invest on my energy transition? This is the reasoning why we launched this new pilot scheme. But beside that, there are many other elements within the clean energy investment strategy. On the financing support package, here I would like to bring your attention to 3 documents that we have adopted within this package: a report to co-legislator on the state of energy efficiency finance in Europe, a guidance on unlocking private investment, where we developed 12 recommendations and divided between action on the activating and aggregating demand, and action on improving the financing supply and offer, and the risking investment and refinancing opportunity. So let's say there is often a chicken and egg issue when you speak about activating financing for energy efficiency. Should a better offer, a better supply of financing come in only when there is a strong demand, or the better supply of financing is driving more demand? And this is why we address the two together. Here, I will not go through the different elements in the guidance, but just to point out that there is a strong focus on, as you can expect, and as already mentioned, to move toward the deployment of more financial instrument and blended financing solution to support the uptake of innovative financing and energy services, but also on the role of, we know that the role of project development assistance has also supported via Live City, and the role of aggregators are overall keys, because these allow to standardize a good number of investment projects that then are more interesting, more appealing toward the private investor, toward the banking sector. The third document, very important, and where is really closely related to the work we do under Live City. It has been also inspired by many projects that have implemented by the program in the past, is the guidance on one-stop shop. Now we finally have a European Union guidance on what we think on a one-stop shop services for energy renovation, for energy efficiency, and on what we consider are the best practice. Of course, there is no one size fits all models. I mean, when we speak about one-stop shop, the key element is to develop the solution closely linked to the situation on the ground, to the actors on the ground. But what is important is that the assistant and advice to citizen needs to be targeted. There needs to be a human presence. There needs to be a support to really convince them and move them toward actually an investment on their property. So I will move to the to the next slide. I'm sorry, I'm a bit rushing, but as you can expect, there is a lot. So grids package. This is also a very important part of the recent development in terms of EU energy policy. We have spoken about the fact that okay, we need to electrify, we need to phase out fossil fuel, but we know very well that we are a bit lagging. I mean, the European grids compared to other part of the world is of course much maybe the only vis-a-vis China. There is a in China there is a stronger grids to serve electrification, but certainly is of good quality. The problem is that we need to really improve it to accommodate much more renewables and to accommodate a stronger electrification. And this has been a bottleneck in some part of Europe. There is a waiting time not only when we speak about connecting a solar panel from your households or the energy community, but also for industry electrification. There is a very long waiting time. So this is a package, a legislative package that has been proposed in December 2025, currently under negotiation between co-legislator, and that really should bring us to have a more integrated system and to accelerate the reinforcement of the European grids overall. The heating and cooling strategy, this will be adopted the coming month together with the electrification action plan. They're actually going together, and is really giving is a strategy, so it's not a legislative proposal, but it will give the direction for electrification of demand and for the transition in terms of heating and cooling. Important aspect there that are well already reflected on our core topics are renewable heat pumps deployment, planning, also in terms of local heating and cooling planning. We have a dedicated core topics to support this, and also very important, the recovery and reuse of waste heat in district heating, but also potentially on site in industry. The another key package being adopted recently has been the citizen energy package. The citizen energy package is really looking the overall ambition was to connect and with actually what citizen needs from the energy system. So is looking, of course, at the bills, but also at the consumer right and the potential for easy and fast switching between consumer contract, which bring not only which bring important savings to citizen, to consumer, stronger consumer protection, but also, I mean, the engagement of citizen and consumer in the energy system, notably via energy communities and energy sharing. The overall communication, let's say the strategic document, has been adopted on the 10th of March, but the specific sectoral, let's say, guidance on these different elements like switching of contract, etc., are being adopted, I think, actually today in written procedures. So I invite you also to keep an eye out for that when preparing your possible proposal, if your proposal, of course, goes into this direction. On the energy communities, I briefly mentioned, but clearly is a very important part of the Life CTSU program and a very important solution when we speak about deploying homegrown energy. We spoke about the issue of the need to reinforce the grid, and in parallel the need to accelerate on deploying homegrown clean energy generation. It's clear that energy communities and possibility for self-production and self-consumption have really an important role to play here, because they can allow us to accelerate without, even in situation where maybe the biggest infrastructure need as we are still waiting on, I mean, where we might have still lack. Digitalization and AI, we are adopting in the 27th of May a strategic roadmap on digitalization and AI in energy. What to say? Europe made a bid to become a data center and AI powerhouse. This this means an increased energy need for all of this, for data center and AI. Any type of forecast see an important increase of the energy needs, and we need therefore to sustainably integrate data center in our energy system. Next to that, there are also the part of how AI and digitalization help the energy system. And here we have specifically a topic on working with DSO on increasing use of digitalization solution, and also possibly, I mean, this is important for you to know in the future on how AI for energy could help things like flexibility, smart consumption, etc. This will be adopted in 27th of May. Finally, the skill for the energy transition. I think it's an important part across the live CT. We have topic like build that skill specifically on skills, but across the different topics, there are some skill building element. There are important provision in the legislation, in the both RED, ED, and EPBD that ask the Commission to work in supporting skills for the energy transition, and that's what we do. And also, there is an overall framework at the European level, the Union of Skills, which pinpoint the need to accelerate in certain sector with vocational training and center of excellence, etc. I will stop here because I think I've been already a bit too long. But thank you very much. I will not be able to stay till the end of the meeting, but I'm happy to receive any question via Vinicius, via CINEA colleagues, in case there is anything you would like to have any type of clarification. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Pierluca. Very detailed presentation, and indeed, it's very relevant for participants to really get the grasp of these updates that you provide to us, as they really give us the contents and the pillars that the live CET project should be structured from. I take note that you won't be staying, so we might be contacting you for some questions afterwards. But for now, thanks very much for joining us this morning. It was really much appreciated. And so I think we can continue now with the program. Now on the agenda, we have our first joint presentation, as I introduced before. It's going to be delivered by our heads of sector here in CINEA. So now I'd like to invite to the stage with me here, Annette Jan and Maria Laguna, heads of sector in our Life, Clima and Energy units in CINEA. So we will start now with the presentation, the call for 2026, and I give the floor to Annette Jan.
Thank you very much, Vinicius, and a very warm welcome to all of the participants. Also from our side, we have the pleasure this morning to guide you through the overview of this call, Clean Energy Transition 2026. We will start with a bit of context and then explain shortly the 13 funding topic of this year. If we look at the first slide, thank you. Then thanking very much Pierluca for pinning the backbone of the Clean Energy Transition Program, of picturing the mapping of the very busy energy policy agenda currently up and running. Here we see that for Europe, in short, there can be no energy security, no independence, no affordability without the clean energy transition. And here, the Clean Energy Transition Program is really to help accelerating that transition. It is DG ENER's key funding program to support the implementation of current what was called the robust legislative packages that Pierluca explained, notably energy efficiency and renewable energy policy objective, but also to provide for future-proof solution which prepare the readiness of Europe, the readiness of you yourself in your own territories for the future decade ahead. So you'll have taken a grasp of it. The Clean Energy Transition Program is foremost a policy implementation, a market uptake program. We are talking here about breaking market barriers, regulatory or governance barriers, which really hamper the transition to sustainable energy, and it turns thus policy into action by creating favorable conditions. The key role here, just to break it down one level more, is to really mobilize investment into investment to aggregate or to accelerate, the rollout of clean energy technology and services in key segments for the energy transition. Importantly, to involve and empower citizens in that very transition, and by doing all that, giving policy support to you, to all of the governance level, to support policy implementation in your own constituencies, and of course in the future-proof consideration. A key priority really is to strengthen the resilience of the energy system, as we just heard, vis-a-vis geopolitical crisis, and therefore the applicants to many of our topics this year are really invited where possible to develop and implement long-term measures which enhance really the energy system resilience against future crises in coherence with short-term measures that the Commission and the Member States will be putting up, and which were recently outlined in the Accelerate EU communication. I think it is very important to add also important features of the backbone of the program. Really, we are talking about a program which has a large geographical reach. Product teams, they can really span with a great bandwidth across the EU, across borders, covering a wide range of countries and regions. And the second important feature on innovation and replication here in the program and in the funding priorities, you will see that there is significant emphasis on innovative solutions. We've mentioned already future-proofed, and the replication of successful projects in order to really maximize the impact of the funding which is possible to give. If we go to the next picture, speaking of impacts, here a spotlight for you. To give a bit of a concrete flavor to what we speak about when we say that Clive Clean Energy Transition is here for you to help accelerating and getting ahead of the energy transition needs. Here you see a pick of selected examples of the change that has been achieved through the Live Clean Energy Transition funding. Stakeholders, they actually resonate back to us, mirror back to us that they really perceive the program as a very effective engine for their change, for their needs. So the program ambition is really you, supporting key market actors in the clean energy transition, for you to increase your market size, for you to expand your operations, for you to test innovation and to scale them. So with an earmarked budget of 1 million for the whole period, and Mathilde mentioned the budget of this year, around 85 million euro, the program has already mobilized about 1,500 market actors engaged and currently across around 300 projects, stakeholders coming from industry, from the public sector, from finance, from research, from think tanks, from civil society, all united in different projects, producing or following up their agenda for the clean energy transition. Here you can see a few concrete results summed up, aggregated of this work. Our projects, for example, have given support to about 500 energy communities to be set up, or more than 600 cities to structure and develop their investment plans. Projects have created more than 50 one-stop shop home renovation projects, which Pierluca outlined, achieving better home services across Europe. They've been supporting more than 50,000 professionals in the construction sector to achieve that very change in the building stock and upskilling our workforce in order to achieve the targets on renovations. Now, these projects, they do indeed set out to improve markets and communities at local level, at regional level, at national level, for a set of member states. And it is through these transitions, that we really believe that this program can support you in empowering a transition really at the European level. Looking at the next picture, here, quick snapshot of the results of the call 25, just to give you a flavor of how in a round total picture this can look like of the selection of 1 year. You will see here many of the key segments in which the funding was flowing last year and which will resonate a lot of the policy objectives that you've heard from DG Energy before. You see here, for example, on the right-hand side of the picture, upper right-hand side, you see here the projects which were supported or which are now starting basically on industry, on businesses or skills. You see the whole range of projects on the lower side in green on mobilizing private finance, or for example, on the left-hand side, the yellow part on better renovations and giving support to the setup of home renovation one-stop shops. That's a snapshot to show you how many projects per year, but also to demonstrate to you the bandwidth, as we said earlier, on the work across the borders. Here, for example, we have a bit more than 40 projects being close to the signature now, but which basically are uniting stakeholders and participants from over 30 countries, and near to 400 beneficiaries are engaged. So that's for the context. When we move to the next picture, here we will invite you to stay tuned for a little while, because these next two pictures, which I'm sharing with my colleague Maria, they will basically, here we will give you an overview, a snapshot, a helicopter flight across the 13 funding topics, which are for you to consider for your own needs and for your own work for this year. As Vinicius explained earlier, for each of these funding topics, there will be a dedicated about 1 hour presentation really going into the detail in case really one of the funding topics resonates with your work. But this presentation will hopefully give you the benefit of having the overview of the funding topics in their totality, which are available. So stay tuned on this. I'll start on the left-hand side of the picture with the first pillar of 3 funding topics: building a national, regional, and local policy framework supporting the clean energy transition. On the first funding topic, towards an effective implementation of key legislation in the field of sustainable energy. Here we are really looking to ask and invite for work, which is underpinning the central legislative package, the central Fit for 55 package. This year, we are looking to support activities, notably on the Energy Efficiency Directive and on Building Directive. That's the scope for this year. Proposals are expected to demonstrate support directly for the member states or the relevant public authorities in the implementation of core provisions of these 2 directives. Now, these can be activities notably for exchange of best practice or modeling of future policy design across the member states, typically engage a large number of member states in order to really have an acceleration and a high quality work in the implementation of the core provisions. We move to the second bullet point of this left pillar, supporting the delivery of local heating and cooling plan. Here, we are looking to support the shift to really an affordable, clean, decarbonized heating and cooling, and which really will require over the next decades significant changes to the energy infrastructure, buildings, to the integrated planning, to spatially tailored decarbonization measures, and of course, targeted investments which go alongside that planning. Here, proposals under this topic are invited to provide targeted support to help local and regional authorities, so basically cities and regions, to develop actionable and integrated local heating and cooling plans covering really all of the different energy carriers, all of the infrastructure and economic sectors. In here, you already understood, we're talking about scale. We are trying to give support and actions amongst municipalities to pool really the resources, to pool skills, to support the whole of the energy system planning. And with this funding, we are also looking to establish lasting and institutional planning processes being very aware that large infrastructure efforts to decarbonize heating and cooling will require decades of work. And here we're looking really to look at lasting structures which will accompany this work even beyond the immediate funding that we are able to provide you with this kickoff of the local heating and cooling plans. Moving to the next topic, strengthening national frameworks for renewable and efficient heating and cooling. We are staying with the important heating and cooling agenda this time. We are moving to national platforms. Here, the topic stems from the observation that there's many solutions on alternative financing schemes and models available in order to accelerate the uptake of heat pumps or solar thermal installation, which typically are still associated with high upfront cost and can be overcome with the setup of smart financing schemes or alternative business models, while their scale for the time being should be pushed, should be really brought across different places in Europe. That uptake is really often hampered by regulatory or non-regulatory barriers. And here, the support of that topic will go into establishing national collaboration platforms where stakeholders which are relevant to making these alternative financing scheme work and the business models work, where they will discuss, where they will assess pathways, whether they will model different scenarios and different regulatory or non-regulatory options in order to give that agenda really a very concrete push and uptake. Moving to the next topic, we are going to the middle pillar of this picture and really looking at the agenda of supporting the development of local and regional clean energy investment projects. Here, we're looking at funding topics which are accompanying from a different angle the investment into clean energy transition infrastructure and projects. The first topic, we've already mentioned that. Pierluca has outlined the member state guidance for one-stop shops, which really gives concrete support for cities or regions or national administrations who are looking to set up one-stop shop for renovation. Here, many of you will be, in the meantime, I'm sure, very aware of the concept of one-stop shops. Really, they are created to reduce the complexity, to simplify decision-making, and really to stimulate the demands, stimulate many clients, many homes, many building stock associations to move to much faster and more dedicated energy-related renovation of their buildings. So concretely here, the funding is there to set up one-stop shops. They should be designed, they should be set up, they should be operational at the end of the activity, and they should be tested with a number of buildings which is really fit for purpose in order to prove that this one-stop shop is set up to stay, and the one-stop shop is set up to be used by homeowners and by their clients. This year, the scope of the topic will address residential building owners owned by physical persons. So here we are talking about homes, making homes better, or by professional landlords. Or we are also expanding the topic this year to commercial tertiary buildings, particularly occupied by. Now, just one quick word, the priority of this call this year will go to one-stop shops which will serve regions with lesser activity so far, but also services which really give a large bandwidth of services to their clients. Moving to the second bullet point, here we are talking about the project development assistance. This is a topic which offers technical assistance to project promoters all across Europe, private or public project promoters, to mobilize large sustainable energy investment pipelines. Here, this is about structuring investment pipelines and finding the associated funding and finance for these pipelines, and to bring the investment to such progress that at the end of our funding, you have a proof of investment that the investment was actually really launched. So this is really accompanying and bringing the investment pipeline, bringing basically sustainable or energy climate plans into real investment. This is a successful strand of the program, which really delivers successfully significant investment, but also while on their journey often really triggers very important regulatory or structural changes in the sector or in the region. Here, we're looking really for clear showcases, projects with organizational innovation, projects with financial engineering, high ambition in terms of the investment, in terms of the energy savings, or in terms of the decarbonization targeted. In terms of the sectors, here, in case you're looking at establishing or moving large pipelines of residential buildings, non-residential buildings, other infrastructure like district heating and cooling networks, or other public infrastructure, very important industry or services, or decentralized renewable electricity production or other renewable energy production, directly replacing solid or fossil fuel use in targeted end-use sectors. Important here, some of you might know this already, this technical assistance goes alongside with a leverage factor. This is one of the pull factors that we have observed works very successfully, that we actually have a definition of a leverage factor of 1 to 15, which we hope for you to achieve at the end of the action in order to demonstrate that the investment is really coming off the ground and is being real. For my part, moving now for the third bullet point of that middle pillar, we're presenting you a new initiative, Empower for EU, where we are scaling up smart and clean energy solutions for affordability in EU cities. Making back bridge to the Citizen Energy Package, that new topic really strongly relates to this. We are really setting up an Empower EU Cities initiative to support European cities and their citizens to benefit from smart distributed energy solutions. In a nutshell, this is a topic which is looking for one project to set up a cascade funding, which means basically giving tailor-made small grants out to cities to scale up and roll out smart energy solutions which have been demonstrated previously, but which are not yet working at great scale. And here, to bridge that gap, this initiative gives out tailor-made funding for cities in order to make that happen. Moving to the final pillar from my side, the third pillar, mobilizing private finance for the clean energy transition. Here we're looking at one dedicated funding topic for this year. Important funding topic, because here we are really trying to assemble the work in Europe, which aims to increase the amount of private finance in the energy transition. There's a whole backbone to that, but you will at your levels know the challenge very well, that the amount of public funding will not be sufficient to materialize really the targets that you've been setting at your levels, that the EU has been setting at EU level in order to accelerate and implement the energy transition. And so this year the scope is to set up innovative financing schemes which really allow to channel private finance into sustainable energy investment. This can be, for example, energy performance contracting, variations hereof. This can be more innovative solutions such as on-build finance, on-tax finance, or in the case of building renovation, building-based financing, and many other innovative solutions. The challenge here, and here the funding arm which is helping you to do this, is really to have financing schemes being set up and operational in one country at the end of the action. Whereas the financing schemes really need to have a dedicated and a clear focus on the demand side, so on energy efficiency, but of course can also target renewables in combination with energy efficiency. Important here is that we are looking really at structuring both the supply of finance, but also building up the pipeline, building up the clients for that finance. So basically structuring the investment program so that the financing schemes are really operational at the end of the project, which means they're really ready to finance projects at large scale. And that was, from my side, the last funding topic presented, and I'm very happy to pass the floor to my colleague Maria. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. If we can have the next slide, please. Thank you, Annette, and good morning from my side. So I will continue the short presentation overview of 6 more call topics for the live set call 2026. But as Vinicius said already, there will be detailed presentations for each of the 13 topics available for you at the end of this session. So we will just give a short overview. I have divided the topics this in 3 blocks as well. So in the first block on the slide, you can see topics that are related to involving and empowering citizens in the clean energy transition. Here we have 2 important topics. The first topic on alleviating household energy poverty in Europe. The topic for 2026 has 2 different scopes. The first scopes on policy and coordination support to public authorities and stakeholders. So here in this scope, what we want is proposals that support public authorities and private and public stakeholders in setting up long-term cross-sectorial coordination structures to tackle energy poverty and deliver capacity building activities for public authorities and stakeholders that are involved in these coordination structures. The second scope under this energy poverty topic, it's on supporting the affordable energy renovation of residential multi-apartment buildings in vulnerable district neighborhoods or districts. And the proposals should implement strategies and approaches that, for example, will reinforce or adapt the governance and decision-making structures of building homeowner associations, or tackle regulatory barriers, define financing strategies, address, for example, split incentives, and that they integrate all these measures in community and neighborhood level approaches. In both scopes, we encourage proposals that look at the issue of alleviating summer energy poverty, and also that focus on geographical areas with less developed energy poverty alleviation strategies. So those 2 particular points are encouraged for both of the scopes under this first topic on alleviating household energy poverty in Europe. If we stay on the same block, but on the second topic on facilitating the cooperation among energy communities, as Pierluca already mentioned in his policy introduction, energy communities have been recognized as key players in the energy system, in the European energy system, because they have a big role to play in order to achieve the 2030 and 2050 climate objectives. We have been supporting in the past energy communities, in particular, for example, the setting up of one-stop shops with the LifeSet program. But this year we have this topic on facilitating the cooperation among energy communities has a slightly different scope as in previous calls. We have also 2 different scopes under this topic of 2026. The first scope is to support the second level energy communities. And here what I can say is that networks of Federation of Energy Communities have proven to be efficient in assisting others by pooling resources and services. And this is what we call the second level communities that provide value, for example, by offering technical assistance, sharing operational maintenance services, improving access to finance, providing solutions or innovative business models to communities, or forming partnerships to ensure that regulatory frameworks are reflecting local needs. So the scope of this topic, it's really on the support the growth of existing second level communities, or the emergence of new ones. So the setting up of new ones, so that these second level communities can aggregate and serve multiple energy communities within a city, a region, or a country to set up and expand their operations. So that's the first scope under the topic on energy communities. We have a second scope under this topic that is to support energy communities to implement projects in emerging areas. So here the objective is to facilitate the implementation of energy community projects energy projects led by energy communities in at least one of the following areas. So in renewable heating and cooling, in the provision of flexibility services, for example, demand response, or community energy storage, or aggregation of member assets, dynamics, tariffs, or inter or intra-community peer-to-peer trading. And also another area where they could help energy projects to be set up is on energy efficiency measures in buildings or in electromobility services. And the support can be done through, for example, peer-to-peer or targeted mentoring that can unlock the potential of energy communities to implement projects in these complex areas. And the clear identification from the very beginning on the projects that the specific energy projects that this peer-to-peer support will support, it's advised and needed for this topic. If we move to the second block, so here we have two topics looking at buildings and building skills. We have a first topic on energy renovation solutions, boosting building renovations through effective markets and instruments. Here we also have, like in previous calls, two scopes. The first scope, it's focused on scaling high quality and competitive energy renovations. So here we're looking at proposals that will deploy replicable strategies and business models to make renovation faster, simple, and more cost-effective and affordable. So this proposal should facilitate large-scale rollout of high-quality renovations and support companies in the construction sector to move toward more industrialized, standardized, and digital practices. So proposals under this scope should overall boost the competitiveness and productivity across the full renovation value chain and be aligned to the local market maturity, the existing support schemes, and the existing facilitation services like one-stop shops. Under the second scope, scope B, under this topic, the aim is to strengthen the market uptake and the effectiveness and usability of key policy instruments under the EPBD. These instruments are mainly the energy performance certificates and the renovation passports, but also when relevant, the smart readiness indicator, the digital building logbox, and the indoor environmental quality. So here what we want is proposals that focus on the better implementation, faster rollout of these existing schemes, improving their accuracy and quality and the consistency across the different schemes. So the activity should enhance the transparency, assess better the renovation needs, the energy cost, and link energy performance improvements with investment decisions. On the second topic under this block on skills, we have a topic to support the setting up of national platforms on energy efficiency skills for the clean energy transition. This topic, it's within the frame of the initiative that was launched in 2011 to support innovative approaches for the upskilling and reskilling of building professionals across Europe. We have supported in the past the setting up of national platforms that gather relevant stakeholders and national skill roadmaps. And with this call 2026, we want to continue this support for the eligible countries that have not been supported so far. So we have supported until now with the live set program 15 member states to develop these national skills roadmaps and to set up the national skills platforms. So with this call, we can support further countries to do the same exercise. There is also a call specifically under this topic to also develop by the projects a large-scale implementation and design of a large-scale communication campaign and awareness-raising campaign to attract more professionals into energy efficiency professions as required by the Energy Efficiency Directive. If we move to the third block under this slide, we have two topics looking into the supporting the industry in the clean energy transition and the digitalization of district system. On the first topic, on the support to to industry and businesses in the clean energy transition, we have a topic similar to last year with 2 scopes. On the scope A, it's looking at the collaboration between industrial sectors that are end users of, they need energy for their operations, and technology providers of clean energy technologies and technologies. So basically here we're looking into the collaboration so that the industrial sectors that share similar processes and energy needs collaborate with European manufacturers that provide clean energy technologies. So in practical terms, this collaboration can be done through governance structures, business models, or the co-design or streamline and standardize sustainable energy solutions for the different industrial processes. So the idea here is that the technology providers can, thanks to this collaboration, optimize and standardize their existing technological offer, so to better respond to the needs of the different industrial sectors. And under the scope B, under this topic on supporting the clean energy transition for the European industry and business, the scope B focuses on the energy cooperation between industries working in proximity to promote the use of clean and affordable sustainable energy use. So basically here is the collaboration, particularly in energy intensive industries or industrial areas, clusters, for example, including industrial port areas. So for example, this collaboration can include energy exchanges, recovery of energy used, waste heat, for waste heat recovery for industrial processes, or the sharing, for example, of energy services and assets, such as renewable energy generation and energy storage. And on the last topic under this blog on supporting the digitalization of distribution system operators for a smart energy transition, this is a new topic in Call 2026 to respond to the priorities of the Green Package as presented by Pierluca in his policy overview this morning. So basically here we are looking into assisting the distribution system operators, towards the challenges faced by the digitalization for the clean energy transition. So these distribution system operators, DSOs, they need to integrate new technologies and must address complex technical, operational, and organizational issues in the clean energy transition. And the topic aims to support the capacity building. Through capacity building, the rollout of digital technologies and processes within the distribution system operators that cover, for example, data management systems, network observability, or the deployment of artificial intelligence for the processes and operations. So proposals should support these distribution system operators in developing a digitalization roadmap and support them in these digitalization roadmaps in their distribution and network development plans that they need to develop regularly. So that's it from my side on this slide. So on the 6 call topics that I have presented, but as I said, they will be also presented more in detail by colleagues. We will release the videos of the colleagues presenting in detail the topics after the session. So we can go for the next slide. So basically, we have presented the call topics for 2026 with this short overview from Annette and from my side, the 13 topics. But as Annette presented today, the LifeSet is a policy-driven program. So we also support other type of initiatives. And here you have a summary of several initiatives that we are supporting within the LifeSet program that maybe you have come across as well. So very briefly from my side, so we have, for example, the member states concerted actions. So these are forums for member states administrations to exchange for a better implementation of certain energy policies. In this case, we have member states concerted actions for the Energy Efficiency Directive, for the Renewables Directive, for the Buildings Performance Directive, and also for the product legislation. And we have a special initiative also for the defense ministries on boosting the renewable use and energy efficiency in the defense sector assets and in their operations. We also have some strategic tenders and initiatives like the Building Stock Observatory or the Build Up Portal, looking into building information or building data information. We also have an initiative like Manage Energy, which is a reference knowledge hub for local and regional energy agencies in Europe. Or we have the European City Facility or the Energy Communities Facility, which are offering rapid grants to cities or to communities to develop investment plans or business plans to secure the need for their projects. And we have also specific policy support initiatives, like, for example, the EU Practitioners Network on Integrated Home Renovation services, or a similar network on a community of practice for build-up skills professionals across Europe. If we go to the next slide. Just a summary of some key information that you have here this morning. So you have here a lot of information, but what you really have to keep in mind, it's some of the information is here on this slide. So as I said, a recap on the call 2026. We published it some days ago. The deadline is on the 16th of September. We have a bit more than 85 million euro for 13 topics, and all the topics are policy-driven topics responding to policy priorities presented today by Pierluca, and with a very detailed guidance and requirements that the proposals need to fulfill. Most of the topics require a minimum of 3 eligible entities from 3 different eligible countries, but in some the average of partners per project it's higher in many cases, but it's not a requirement that is higher. And we have a 95 co-financing rate for the live seed CAT projects, and all the information it's in the Funding Santander portal. On the next slide. Here, just a recap of today. So we have been having the live set info days with this week, the specific session on live set currently now. Here on the slides, this will be available. Important links to all the information on the call, to the participant portal, and to the call document. So that's why we have it here, so that you have all the information in one slide. So just an info slide from my side. And we can go to the next slide. Just information for you. So we also have in June, from the 9th to 11th of June, the European Sustainable Energy Week, which is the largest annual event dedicated to renewables and energy efficiency use, organized by the European Commission. It has a hybrid format, so there are sessions you can attend here in Brussels, but they can be attended online, and brings together policymakers, industry, NGOs, and different stakeholders to discuss on a secure and clean energy future. Many of the live set projects will be showcased in the different sessions, so you are invited to come to Brussels and to follow the USEF on site, but also to follow it online in case. So that's from my side on USEF. And next slide, please. We are also organizing next week the Clean Energy Transition Investment Forum. So it's a one-day forum that brings together practitioners, public authorities, and business, looking in particular into find practical solutions to finance the European clean energy transition. We also have many live set projects from the financing angle that will be showcased here on the 6th of May. So you are also welcome to participate in case it's interesting for you. And next slide, please. And then just to let you know that, of course, we have this live European Info Day today. And you will have the recordings of this session and of the detailed presentation, of course, topics, but there is also support available at the national level. We have a network of national contact points in each member state that can help you with your proposals and with different questions about the LifeSet program. So you will find in the link the list of national contact points. And they will be organizing also in the next weeks and months some of them national info sessions, so you can contact them in case you want to follow a national info day as well. And we have here also the functional mailbox, so in case you have questions, you can also address them to CINEA through this through this email address. Thanks a lot. And the next slide, please. And then just the final slide from my side. We are making a lot of effort to communicate on the project's results and achievements through social media, and CINEA is active in 5 social media networks. So please, when you communicate about your projects, about your success, about your events, you can always tag us or use the CINEA hashtag so that we maximize the communication activities and impact of the Life Clean Energy Transition Program. So that's all from my side, and I think we have a last slide. So thank you. Thank you from my side, and of course from Annette's side, who was speaking before me, and now I pass the floor to Vinicius to continue with the presentations of today. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, Maria, and Annette as well. As Annette introduced, this was meant to be a helicopter view or a general overview on all topics that are open, all the 13 topics that are open this year under the Life CET program. Of course, we do heavily encourage all participants to check the call document for details and also to stay tuned at the end of the session. As we said before, we're going to be releasing dedicated videos on each of these 13 topics that you can see the one that you're most interested in and try to follow this presentation as well, as it gives you detailed information on your topic of interest. And now we'll continue with the presentation. Now this is the second, so we'll continue the program. Now this is the second presentation, joint presentation delivered by Zoe Wildiers and Talia Brum, who will invite to join me now on the stage. And they're going to explain you all how to submit an excellent proposal. So we'll start first with you, Zoe. Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, Vinicius, and a very warm welcome from my side as well. So indeed, in the next slides, I will try to give you some tips on how to submit an excellent proposal. So if we can start with the presentation, we can see there are a few things to remember about the evaluation process. So let's start with the first important element. The time frame. So you've heard the date of 16th of September quite a few times already today. It's on this graph month 0, let's say. So what happens after you've submitted your proposal? Well, first, the proposal will be checked for admissibility and eligibility. I'll say a few more words about that in a moment. And then maximum 5 months after that, so this leads us to February, applicants will be notified on the outcome of their proposal. And a maximum of 4 months later, so month 9, that leads us to the month of June, the grant agreements of the successful proposals will be signed. So what I want to show here is the timeline of the process. And so you have to make sure that the idea you have now that you're going to submit by the 16th of September, of course, still makes sense by June. Because if it's successful, that's when it could start at the earliest, but most of the proposals will only start in autumn 2027. So bear this in mind when you think about your project idea. Let's move to the next slides. There we have a look at the funding and tender portal. So how does that work? You'll get the link at the very end of my presentation, and you will find there 13 links to the 13 different topics that Annette and Maria just presented to you. So if we look at the next slide, you will dive down, we'll dive deeper into what the portal offers you. You can see a clear topic description that is broken down into the scope, objectives, and impact of each of the 13 topics that are open now for funding. You'll also have topic updates in case there are elements to flag. And of course, you'll also see a header on the topic conditions and documents. On the next slide, you'll see there's another header entitled call document and The call document is extremely important to look at. It's the document compiling all of the 13 topics, the eligibility conditions, the budgets involved, etc. So it's very important you take a thorough look at that document. Very soon we're going to add here as well the links to the info day recordings and also frequently asked questions for the various topics that are open for funding. So based on the questions we'll receive, we'll regularly update this. So please have a regular look at the funding and tender portal to see if some new questions have been made available. Let's have a look now at the structure of the proposal. So if you're interested in one of the topics, you click on these, you say, okay, I want to start a submission. What does it lead you to? Well, it leads you to various documents and a session on, on the funding and tender portal where you can see the following elements. The first element you can see is entitled Part A, which is a part that you have to fill in directly online, explaining who's your consortium and basically mention the administrative data. You'll also have some documents in a zip folder, and one of these documents is a Word document entitled Part B, which you'll have to complete, convert into a PDF, and then upload. So what is that Part B? Well, it's actually the technical presentation of your project. So it's a very important part. And what I really would like to flag here is that there are important elements to respect if you want your proposal to be admissible, if you basically want it to be evaluated. So you will see there are some guidelines mentioned there as regards the font and the maximum number of pages, the margins, and so on. So the font to be respected is Arial 10. You'll see the details on the margins, and you have a maximum of 65 pages for that document. You have to keep the instructions in the document. So whenever we come across applicants removing the instructions in order to save space, well, you will understand equal treatment of applicants is not respected. And in that case, the proposal will be considered inadmissible, meaning it will not be sent to evaluators and it won't be evaluated. So I'm pretty sure you want to avoid that. So the message here is please respect the template as it is and make sure you manage to present your proposal in detail, respecting the 65 pages. Part C is the next part. You'll hear more from Talia about that in a moment. Turns the key performance indicators, and of course, what you mentioned there needs to be in line with the indicators you mentioned in your core technical part, so Part B. A detailed budget table will be requested in Excel format where you'll present the budget for each of the partners with the various budget categories. In another compulsory annex entitled Participant Information, you'll explain who your consortium is and the previous experience they have. What's important as well is that nothing else can be mentioned in that annex. So sometimes we come across consortia who put information in that annex on their pilots, for example, because it didn't fit anymore in the technical part. Well, just bear in mind, it's not designed for that. Again, for reasons of equal treatment, it will be disregarded. Only the elements related to the participant information can be put in that specific annex. Then we have an optional annex concerning letters of support. So if you would like to show that you have support stakeholders, we strongly encourage you to use that possibility. And what we would like to ask you here is to start that annex, which is also submitted in PDF, with an overview of the organizations and people who have signed and submitted a letter of support. So that would be very helpful for us. So let's have a deeper dive now at Part B. So on the next slide, you can see the structure of Part B, and you will find 4 main headings there, which are entitled Relevance, Impact, Implementation, and Resources. And you will see in a moment that this is quite in line with the award criteria I will present to you in a moment. Let's present a few elements that lessons learned, we can say, from that Part B. So on the next slide, we give you a few tips. So make sure you really focus your your part B, that your proposal is really focused. As Maria and Annette presented, sometimes you have 2 scopes within a certain topic, and it's required to focus on one scope. So if it's clearly mentioned to focus on one scope, please do so. You won't have a higher mark because you address a few elements of scope A and a few elements of scope B. So please read the call document carefully and make sure you you answer it in line with the requirements. Make sure that your starting point is really clear, that you know what's happening. You present a list of projects or initiatives that already exist, and that you clearly explain how you're going to build on that. So what's new with the action that you propose? Also, please be sure that your concept and your methodology are clearly presented, and that it's clear how your proposals, objectives, and your concept are in line with the topic you want to address, and of course, overall with the call. The proposed activities need to be credible and credibly lead to concrete achievements and impacts. And these impacts, of course, need to be realistic, but also ambitious. On the next slide, we also have a few more elements that are worth looking at. The work packages that you will come up with, they need to be interrelated. Also, make sure that your stakeholder engagement is clear. Make sure you come up with a communication and a dissemination plan that is tailor-made for your stakeholders. So don't present just a standard communication plan. Make sure it's really designed for the people addressed in your action. You have 65 pages. You know, you can't remove the instructions. Make sure you use these 65 pages wisely. Don't repeat elements over and over again. Make sure your descriptions are not too high level, but make sure to be focused, as already mentioned earlier. You will see that the Part B template also includes a Gantt chart. So make sure it's clearly presented as well. And I hereby take advantage to already answer one of the questions raised. So there is no minimum or maximum duration for the submitted proposals, but I can say that on average, most CET proposals have a duration of 3 years. Can be a bit longer, shorter. There is no rule on that. So there's no criterion saying this is good, not good. It, of course, all needs to make sense. And as I already mentioned, make sure that if you have some important information that you want the evaluators to look at, make sure it's in Part B and don't use other annexes to present the calculation of your impact or to present pilots, for example. There are specific headers in Part B. Make sure you put the right information in Part B within the 65-page limit. So let's go to the next slide where, as I told you, we can learn a bit more about admissibility and eligibility. So before a proposal is being sent to evaluators, it needs to be considered admissible and eligible. So admissible means that it's in the system, that it's submitted on time by the deadline. So what's very important here is that all the different sections of your proposal can be submitted over and over again. So you can overwrite and continue submitting with a new version of your Part B till the deadline. So we strongly encourage you to start doing that already a week before the deadline. And then if you have a new version of Part B, you overwrite it. And what we will see is the very last version. So every year we have applicants starting to submit last minute. They face an IT bug, and in the end, we have nothing in the system, and there's nothing from our side to evaluate, unfortunately. So really start doing this well on time, and you can overwrite. Also, in order to be admissible, we're going to look at whether the proposal is complete, whether all parts have been submitted, and of course, whether you meet the criteria I presented earlier on font, margins, whether instructions are there, etc. In order to be eligible, we'll look at the consortium composition. It's clearly explained on the portal and in the call document what the requirements are for the consortium composition. So for some topics, it's enough to have one partner from an eligible country as a minimum, of course. And for some others, a minimum of 3 organizations is required from 3 different eligible countries. You'll find all the information in the call document. The coordinator always needs to come from an eligible country. The activities need to take place in the live eligible countries. And of course, the activities need to be in scope. So if we see activities that don't fit the topic they've been submitted under or any other of the live set topics of this year, they won't be considered in scope and won't be evaluated. On the next slide, you can have a quick look at the award criteria. There are 4. Relevance, impact, quality, and resources. So a bit the same headers I've presented to you of part B. So they're all marked between 0 and 20 points. Impact is counting for 150%. So this will lead us to a total of 90 points. And in order to be in the funding zone, a minimum of 10 out of 20 is needed for each criterion and a minimum of 55 out of 90 overall. So let's be very frank here. Having 55 out of 90 is very unlikely to lead to a proposal that's going to be funded. Competition is increasing every year. And so a much higher score would be needed in general in order to be in the funding range. Each of these criteria is broken down into further sub-criteria. So overall, evaluators are looking at 15 sub-criteria. And they're also available in the call document. So it's quite clear what evaluators will evaluate the proposals on. Here, really bear in mind that some sub-criteria have a bigger weight than others. You'll clearly understand that the sub-criteria on concept, methodology, impact have a heavier weight than the extent to which, for example, the environmental impact is considered or green procurement. That's to give an example. An element here on resubmissions, because every year we have proposals that are being resubmitted, as you can see on the next slide, and proposers adapt a few elements and then have the expectation that they would have a higher score because they've taken into consideration some elements of the impact. Here, it's important from our side to let you know that it will not necessarily lead to a higher score if you do that. There might be various reasons for that. So we already told you to have a thorough look at our topics. Our topic descriptions, they evolve year after year. So something that was really in line with the call last year might not be as relevant this year for our call. So this can lead to changes in scores as well. Of course, the state of the art is evolving as well. So the degree of innovation can evolve, and so this might have some consequences as well. And as mentioned already, we are facing a competition that's increasing year after year. So it doesn't mean necessarily that the proposal will have a higher score. So just bear this in mind. Make sure that you take all elements into consideration. So now I will leave the floor to Talia, who is going to tell you more about the impacts.
So, hello, good morning, everybody. So, I'm going to be talking to you about impacts. It's very important that you take care of this section. As Zoe mentioned when she described the award criteria, this is one of the criteria that has a higher weight. So, I would really encourage you to take it seriously and spend the time necessary to complete this section of the proposal. Next slide. So, you will need to be quantifying 3 types of impacts. The most important one is the topic specific impacts. You will also maybe want to define some project specific impacts. And there's also the life set common indicators, which all projects need to quantify. Next slide. So, what are the topic specific impacts? Where do you find them? So, when you read your call text, the call text that you're responding to, you will have a list of indicators that you're suggested to quantify. Of course, you don't need to quantify all of the ones that are listed there. Very often, you will see that call text say where relevant. So, you need to see among those topic specific indicators which are relevant, in which are relevant for your project concept, and quantify those. Then, of course, once you have done that exercise, you may think, okay, my project delivers these impacts, but also others that are not reflected by these standard topic specific indicators. And you can define other indicators to make justice to the action that you're implementing, that you will be implementing. So you can define your own indicators and add them there as well in part B. And finally, as I said, you will need to be quantifying 5 common indicators. They are very straightforward: primary and final energy savings, renewable energy generation, greenhouse gas reductions, and investments triggered. Um, what is important about these common indicators is that at least one of the energy indicators is not zero. So wherever you have an indicator of this standard 5, you may not be triggering any investment. That's okay. You can write 0, but at least one of the energy related indicators needs to be positive. Next slide. So for all the indicators, for all the 3 types of indicators I just described, you will need to quantify 2 figures. One, what will be the value at the end of the project, and another one 5 years after the project. What is very important when you produce your estimates will be to really be very clear on your baseline. So, what is your starting point? And describe it very well. And also describe the assumptions that you're going to make in order to quantify the impacts. The assumptions need to be transparently indicated in the proposal. And it's very important to consider that here what experts will be assessing will be the credibility of the impacts. So you will not get a higher score because you have very high figures. You need to be ambitious, but your impacts need to be credible. So use reasonable assumptions that also show that you know the context in which you will be working very well, and that are really and try to quantify impacts that can really easily be linked to the activities that you will be implementing. Now, when you quantify the kind of end of the project impacts, you will not only be quantifying what you have concretely already achieved. So you will also be quantifying the impacts that you have triggered. So, for instance, if you're working on renewable energy investments, you may have installed already a certain renewable capacity, but within the project, you may have taken the decision to invest in more capacity, and those are impacts that you can consider for the end of the project because they have been triggered. In this case, because the investment decision has been taken within the project. So other actions that are not fully implemented by the end of the project, but that your project has significantly contributed to unlock, can be claimed under your kind of impacts for the end of the project. And as I said, you will also be quantifying impacts after the end of the project, so 5 years later. Next slide. Beyond these 3 types of impacts that are mostly, next slide, please. Beyond these 3 types of impacts that are mostly reflected in part B, so in the impact section of part B, you will also need to complete part C of the proposal as Zoe described. And in part C, you will have to quantify 11 live project indicators. The live project indicators are indicated in the table on the slide that you have there. The first 5 you will already have figures for because you will have provided a figure under part B. So make sure that those live set common indicators are consistent between part B and part C, and you will have 6 additional indicators for which you will need to provide a figure for. It's important to know that these 11 indicators will follow you through your project if you're selected. because you will need to be reporting on them at different stages in your project implementation. So in month 9 and at the end of the project. So it's important that already at proposal stage, when you complete part C, you give them some thought. Next slide. And with that, I will pass the floor to my colleague Zoe.
Yes.
Again.
Thank you, Talia. A few final elements from my side. So here you can find a few tips in order to succeed. First big tip is to start early. 16 September is a few months away, so make sure you start as soon as possible. Make sure you go through the relevant information. So you'll find a wealth of information on the funding and tender portal, and go through as mentioned before. Choose your idea clearly, structure it well, and stick to it. So make sure you also only involve people who are meaningful for your project idea. So with that, I go to the next tip, which is to build a good consortium. So don't just add people and organizations randomly because you've come across someone at a conference. I would be good to work together. I'll draft you a little work package. Also, so that's not the right way to do it. So make sure everybody has a clear role, and yeah, that's a meaningful role to play in the consortium. Also, don't think that it's better to have partners from all over Europe involved in your consortium. Again, every partner needs to have a clear role, and artificially covering the map of Europe is not necessarily going to give you a higher score. Create your budget bottom up. So make sure that you calculate the number of person months that are needed for the various tasks and work packages, and the rest of the cost categories that are needed for the consortium partners. Create a thread when writing your proposal. So for your methodology, define the different working steps, the different interlinkages. Make sure, again, for your target group that your communication and dissemination plan is matching their needs. And of course, at the very end, before your final submission, make sure someone, typically an informed outsider, has a look at the entire proposal, that everything makes sense, that tasks are clearly explained, so that it's easy, clear to be read and assessed. So that's for the final polishing. A few more slides with mainly links. So you can find on the next slide the link with the information on the info days. You can find our that has been presented earlier, also the funding and tender portal. And I hereby answer another question for the live funded project. So that's a link where you can find projects previously funded under the live program. You can find the link to the Cordis database, where you can find projects funded under Horizon 2020, under energy efficiency, so our predecessor program. Mentioned by Maria already, the link to Manage Energy, so and build up as well the portal on buildings. An invitation here to subscribe to our newsletters of Life and CINEA as well. On the next slide, again, we remind you that you can contact your national contact point in case you would like to have some help and guidance for drafting your proposal. And a very last message from my side, but definitely not least, if you've heard all these messages, all these topics that have been presented to you, on the next slide, thanks, and you say, well, actually, this year, I don't think I have a fantastic, bright idea. I might not submit a proposal, but I do have relevant skills that I can offer and work as an evaluator. Well, we hereby strongly encourage you to register your CV on the Funding and Tender portal under the tab Work as an Expert. So we're always looking for new evaluators. So these are short-term assignments, 10, 12 working days, that will take place in autumn of this year. But so please don't hesitate and register there. Of course, if you submit a proposal, we cannot select you as an evaluator. You will not be invited to evaluate your own proposal. We strongly check the absence of conflict of interest for evaluators. So we hereby hope that we gave you an overview and some tips on how to work on your proposals. And we thank you very much, and above all, wish you good luck. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much to Zoe and Talia. Indeed, a lot of elements that the applicant should keep in mind, but indeed, it was a very good overview on the main elements to be considered when preparing the application. So with that, well, I thank all the speakers for the presentation so far, and I think we can move to the Q&A session before we conclude the CET session. So now we invite all speakers to join me on stage, and we can slowly start taking the questions that are on Slido, which should be appearing on the screen. If you want to ask questions, please again go ahead and connect to slido.com and use the hashtag EULife26, or simply scan the QR code you see right now on the screen. And I think we can already start taking the questions appearing on top. I don't, colleagues in the technical team, please display the questions. I don't see the questions yet. Okay, it's coming. So that's maybe another chance. I have a few extra seconds for participants to ask the questions. So we see the first question appearing on top. What is the purpose of the bonus points if they are not included in the overall pass evaluation?
I can take Vinicius for live CT. We don't use bonus points, so that's a quick answer.
Okay, that was quick. Thank you. Second question I read, is there a contact point for North Macedonia?
I think I can answer. I'm not fully sure. I think there is contact points for all countries participating in a live set, but I mean, there is a link to the national contact points list in the presentation that we provided, so it will be better to double check there.
And I'm pretty sure there is one for North Macedonia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll find the links in various of our presentations, so please have a look.
And indeed, maybe it's a good hint for me also to clarify. I saw a few questions on applicants asking how can see and find partners. I think a good indication will be first to try to contact a national contact point from your country of origin. So there should be really somebody from the country there to support you in the application and to help you with identifying partners that could be relevant and joining your proposal, and also particularly these finding partners to join proposals. I would also encourage you to check the platform that you're actually connected to us right now. So this very website, you have a tab where you have a function to schedule meetings. And there, the purpose is really for you to do some matchmaking with other interested applicants that are joining this session. So you should, of course, register your profile there, and you can also screen the profiles on the platform and also schedule meetings if you identify somebody that is could be potentially interested in joining your consortium and move forward. I think the questions appearing. I think we answered a couple already. I think colleagues, you can highlight the questions on top so we can answer them in order. Otherwise, I can take maybe not the ones on the screen, but I can take one from the backstage that I see. So what are the consequences if the expected KPI cannot be achieved due to internal constraints with the companies involved, resulting in a negative impact or on our achievable KPIs? So I guess if somebody could not reach the proposed KPIs initially in the proposal. Talia, I guess that's for you.
Yeah, maybe I can take that one. So basically, of course, that there is not a kind of a standard answer to that question. It depends very much on the reasons why a KPI has not been achieved. In general, what our projects do is if they see that there are obstacles that are hard to overcome, they set up a meeting with their project advisor and they see which mitigation actions, which actions can be taken in order to address that as soon as possible and try to achieve as much as possible the KPIs. Sometimes, indeed, for exogenous reasons, projects don't achieve them, but if those exogenous reasons can be explained, then there is a penalty on the project necessarily if they've done everything in their power to overcome those obstacles. Yeah, I don't know if colleagues want to add. Happy to hear more.
Okay, no, I think that was clear. Thanks a lot, Talia. I'm going to continue questions I see because I think maybe the ones on the screen are not the ones for CET. There is a question on if there is a limit to the number of projects that one organization can participate in under one topic. So could one organization submit several proposals this year?
So I
Maybe
can take that. Yeah, of course, an organization is fully entitled to submit various proposals, be it under the same topic or under various topics. Of course, bear in mind that if they are all positively evaluated and invited for funding, you need to have the resources to implement them. So that's an element to take into account as well. But there is, as such, no limit.
Indeed, a very important point. How are we doing the questions on the screen? Yeah. So I'm going to continue with the questions I see here in the background. So there is one on the topic of build-up skills, maybe for you, Maria. Could you confirm that only eligible countries are those that have not or those that have not yet updated their national skills platform? As a French company, am I eligible to apply for build-up skills or a similar call?
Thanks, Vinicius. So as I explained in the presentation, and I think if you are interested in build-up skills, it will be good to follow the specific recordings of the build-up skill topic. We have already supported 15 countries to update their national skills roadmaps and to set up the national skill platforms. So we are not expecting with the call to cover the countries that have already done the job. And the countries who have already updated the national skill roadmap and platform, so are 15. I can't say which ones are those, but it will be better to look into the call topic with all the information. It's there, or to follow the sessions to be completely sure. But I can confirm that France has already updated their platform, so we are not expecting to have a new roadmap skill proposal from France. While a French company can apply in various topics in the call. But we are not expecting to have a new project for France because we already have a skill roadmap and platform in France. Yeah.
Great. Thanks very much, Maria. Maybe just a comment to participants. I see some questions that are very topic specific. We're trying to answer this as we can, as was just the example. But if you have very topic specific questions, also don't hesitate to send us direct email to the functional mailbox. I'll also present the mailbox at the end of the session so we can properly answer your more specific question there. But if I take another one, yes, how are we doing now? Yeah, maybe I'll take another one here from the background, maybe a more general one on the use of artificial intelligence. I think it's a common topic these days. So AI-assisted co-evaluation could ensure fair competition for new organizations. Currently, established bodies or new with affiliation to those bodies dominate funding. Is there a provision for something like this? Or in other words, could they use AI to support the application?
So I'm not sure I understood the question correctly. Is it for the evaluation or the application that AI
indeed.
is
I
intended
think
to
if
be
I interpret correctly,
used?
it's more evaluation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I initially understood on the evaluation. So we work with evaluators, as I just explained to you. It's not AI evaluating our proposals. If you want to use AI for your proposal submission, fine, but make sure you stand behind what's written, that you can implement what has been drafted. So yeah, that would be the answer in short. I don't know if the colleagues want to complement, but it can help. But we've heard as well, and make sure that you still respect the template, because sometimes we've come across applications that were helped by AI, and then the template's not respected, and they don't respect the requirements anymore. And you remember what I told you, it's necessary, of course, if you want to be evaluated, to first be considered admissible. But content wise, make sure you don't and you can't implement it. So that's an important element to take into consideration.
Yeah.
If colleagues want to complement, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, complementing is mainly saying the same thing that you are saying. Maybe a proposal that is written with AI, it looks nice from the outside, but it has to be behind actors that are able to implement it and move an agenda forward. So it's not because it's very well written. If there is not the right actors behind and the right consortium to make the agenda forward and it's feasible to do what you are promised to do, is not a good proposal. Yeah.
All right, thanks very much. I think, yeah, I'm going to continue taking the questions that I see here. Maybe two focus on topics. Oh, I think we can answer these. First one on Enercom. Maybe Talia and Maria, you can take this one. On the Enercom topic, is it expected to deploy any digital tools to support the creation and effective implementation of energy communities under Scope B? Yeah, Talia, please go ahead.
Yes. Yes. So no, it's not expected, and we would expect you, if you plan for whatever reason, because of the nature of the project that you plan to implement, you need a digital tool. First of all, I would encourage you to look out there what already exists, see if you can adapt any of the existing tools, and then okay, if you find if you find a gap in the market and you see that there is no tool for what you plan to do, then you can of course justify that in the proposal, and that would be welcome there. But we don't want to produce tools just for a project. They need to make sense in the context of energy communities more broadly, and we don't want to repeat tools that already exist. So just be a bit critical with tool development needs. Yeah.
Indeed, a clear message here. Thank you. And then another topic now on the project development assistance, I might address to you, Annette. So on PDA, if the investment project cannot start as planned, are there repayment obligations, or is a later start still acceptable? And how does Life PDA define implementation?
Thank you very much, Vinicius, and indeed a very relevant question for this technical assistance initiative. Now, maybe first to say how we define implementation in the topic description. Possible applicants who are interested in this support, they will see that they are invited with a proposal to suggest in which way they would demonstrate at the end of their project that the investment has been launched. There are a few examples mentioned in the topic description. For example, a very obvious one is a signed contract, signed work contract, but it also in other models and other project pipelines. For example, also the publication of a public tender could be acceptable, or basically any evidence which really makes it very clear that the investment is going to be launched, and which is fitting to the nature of the pipeline, but is also fitting to the nature of the actual implementation phase. Messaging. Now, delays is a recurrent challenge, obviously, in technical assistance projects, because naturally linked to the aim of launching the concrete investment. We have a lot of experience in helping and accompanying our projects on their journeys. There are different menus available of how we can deal with that. Indeed, there is a clause that the investment needs to be reached in a 1:15 ratio, and in case the investment was not launched or only partially launched, there might be a retainer of the grant, which was initially set up. That's part of the grant agreement, but there's also due analysis, which factors are influencing the investment, and which of your activities would actually have a long long-lasting effect. So also here, there's no standard answer to this, but there's a lot of experience in accompanying our project teams for these endeavors. And so we hope that when reading the topic description, you will see that there's a lot of ways in which you can propose your project and which will make it a successful launch of the investment. And that's actually for the majority of our projects really the case. And so we strongly invite you here to look at the description very in detail, and also follow our colleagues who are presenting the PDA project to you in the separate session. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Annette. Maybe a more general question here. Can we give participants an average estimation of a funding size per project? Would there be an average number of a budget on each project?
It's all in the code. So that's the short answer. Yes, you can find the budget breakdown in the call document, and also have an estimation of the average budget for a typical proposal under that project. So it's all explained clearly there.
Thanks, Zoe. Yes, clear here. Indeed, as I indicated initially in the Q&A, I think it's very important that you really check the call document into details for all the detailed elements of the presentations.
Yes, as it's different for every topic, I don't think it makes sense to start going through the 13 topics. So yeah, go to the call document, please.
Then another question, can we apply as a mono beneficiary and don't have a consortium, or is there, or must there be a consortium with several partners?
I think I already hinted at that during my presentation. Again, sorry for the repetition. Please have a look at the call document. It's explained in there what the eligibility criteria are for the consortium composition. In brief, for the topics Build Skills, PrivaFin, One Stop Shop, and PDA, it's allowed to submit a proposal by one only. And for all the other topics, there's a minimum requirement of having 3 organizations from 3 different eligible countries. The coordinator always needs to come from an eligible country. Of course, I think as Maria already said, most consortia, even if you have this requirement of minimum 1, minimum 3, are larger. I think our average is around a consortia of approximately 7 partners. But so yes, technically it is possible. Make sure that if you have only one partner submitting the proposal, that of course the entire action can be dealt with by that single organization.
Okay, thanks very much, Zoe. Maybe, I think we're almost at the end, but maybe we can still take a couple of questions. Maybe the first one would be, if a project wants to submit a follow-up project, is there anything that needs to be considered in particular? Follow-up projects?
Well, I can start.
Maybe.
Yeah. Go ahead, Anita.
No, I think also here, no standard answer. I think the basic principle would be to highlight that against the criteria, a proposal will be judged against the criteria. A proposal will not be judged on the knowledge of the previous project, because we are working with external experts who are basically invited to judge the quality of the proposal as it is presented. Having said that, obviously it goes with common sense that an applicant of this kind would have an interest of really demonstrating the added value and the steps beyond the previous project in order to qualify against the criteria.
Okay.
I don't know whether the colleagues wanted to add. No?
Or maybe
Okay,
make sure that clearly it matches one of the priorities presented this year as well.
Okay, thank you, Annette and Zoe. Maybe we can take one very last one. I see that the ones on the screen are appearing already, but maybe some of them we answered. I think I'll take the one at the bottom. Is there a topic that supports the development of production plants to be made available to energy communities? I look at you, Talia.
production plans to be made available. So first of all, maybe it's useful to clarify that under LifeSet, we support the structuring of projects, we support the engagement of citizens for energy communities, the technical support in order to make projects viable, etc. But we don't fund directly production installations. So we don't fund, let's say, the PV panels, for instance. It's only all the actions that go around that enable those installations, community renewable installations to happen. I think that the question hints at that. I don't think we would be supporting a project that is not led by a community or by a partner of a community to develop an installation with the promise that then it would be made available to communities. But of course, I mean, you need to, I mean, the question is very broad, so I don't know exactly what you have in mind. Just be aware that the idea this year for both scopes, so the second level communities and also, I guess, scope B, that would be more fitting to this question, is really to identify two communities that or several communities that want to exchange best practices and business models and basically enable project implementation through peer-to-peer support. So I mean, the idea, the question hints at a bit of a different idea that is not fully in scope.
Okay, thanks, Talia. I think, Annette, do you want to add something here?
Just to complement, I think the answer of Cordelia was already very clear. Just to complement that, in terms of developing renewable energy projects which are community-led, citizen-led, you can also look at the support of the technical assistance through the PDA, which has a strong leg on supporting these developments. There is no prescription of who the project developer should be, but obviously the basic principles of how we define community energy or citizen-led energy apply also here. But there is lines. I repeat, however, and echo what Talia was saying, as for all of the technical assistance, the funding doesn't go into the actual finance of the actual installation, but here again at the project development and the technical assistance for every step to put the project into place. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot to all of you. I see there are still a few questions, but I think unfortunately you're out of time, so I propose that we conclude the session and the Q&A. Of course, not without giving you asking all participants, unfortunately digitally, to give you a round of applause. Please join me here in thanking all the speakers for their presentations and for taking time to answer your questions today. Tilde and Pierluca, who started the session with us this morning. So we are now getting to the conclusion of the session. I would like to ask the technical team also to present the slides, as we'd like to announce where participants can access the videos that were prepared for you on the topic-specific videos. So there are, as we said, 13 topics this year, and for each one of them, we prepared a dedicated video where you can see all the details, all the scopes and elements that you should take into consideration for these topics. There were several questions on the topics already. If we didn't manage to answer your questions on Slido, we'll still try to answer a few via text answers, but if we didn't manage to answer your questions, and particularly the questions on the topics, please contact us via the functional mailbox that you can see on the slide right now. So CINEA lifeset@ec.europa.eu. We will be happy to take your questions there as well and clarify anything that was maybe not, that was left maybe unanswered. The second point I'd like to mention now is that from this moment on, you can access these videos on the link that you can also see on the left side of the slides, and that this is available on the same platform as you're connected right now to follow this session. So all you have to do is refresh the page. Don't do it immediately, otherwise you're going to lose the connection. But right after we conclude, please refresh your page and should be able to see a tab on the website where you have the specific links to each one of the videos. There is at least one video per topic, but some topics you'll see that there are two different videos, one with the specific policy context for that topic, and the second one with the topic presentation and all the details, as I said. So without further ado, I think we can slowly conclude the session. Once again, thanks all the speakers and also all the colleagues that prepared these videos that are now available to you. Thanks also to the technical team and our colleague Paula for helping us with Slido. Before we conclude, I also invite you to continue on Slido and make sure that you answer the little survey that is appearing there, where you can. It's a satisfaction survey, so we are looking for you have your chance to tell us your views on how we did for this session, and please answer there, as we do take your feedback very seriously, and that is how we can improve for future versions of the events. So thanks a lot to all of you, to speakers and to participants for staying until the end. Please access the videos and as I said many times, read the call documents, and you have all the details required for the Live CET 2026 topics in mind when you're preparing your applications. And don't hesitate to contact us if you have more specific questions via email. So with that, I think we can conclude. Thanks very much for joining us today, and wish you success when preparing and submitting your applications for this year's call. Thank you very much, and have a good day.